President.
Yeah.
Do you get over, like, do you ever get over how when you walk in people call you president?
No, I'm used to it. Remember, I'm a former president of COSAS.
Yes.
For the past 14 years, I've been called president, even when I was not president of the Youth League. Now, once a president is always a president. Yeah.
So you'll always be a president. So
Yeah,
then
it's a permanent
for life. You're a
for
president,
life.
emeritus president.
Yes, yes.
So actually, let's talk about that. You were president at the age of 13, I think.
No, at the age of 13, I was a regional secretary, 14, 13, regional secretary of...
13, 14.
Yeah, of COSAS in Ekurhuleni. At 14, I was also a branch secretary of the Youth League in my branch, in 136 Pitamkaba branch. I stayed there. At 15, 16, I was a provincial secretary of COSAS in Gauteng. Then later became the chair of the province. Then ultimately at 18, president of COSAS.
At 18?
Yeah.
Okay. Your father was also into politics, though.
Yeah.
So is that where you got your, I'd say, your fire from?
Not really. Maybe let's say exposure.
Exposure.
Because I can't say that he's the one that recruited me into politics. You know, there are a lot of kids of politicians who are not in politics, who their parents are highly active. Now, it's a decision you make, and I think there are many people. It's what you like. I think maybe I can say I was prepared for that from an early age. The roles I've been playing when I was young of leadership, and before I was even in COSAS and school, and always being the one in the forefront of everything, even at school. Yeah, I've always been in charge.
In charge.
Yeah, it's always grade one. Now I've always had interest in politics. My father used to buy me these small books that speaks about leaders. I'm not a small kid.
Yeah, those easy to read books.
Easy to read books.
Yeah.
I used to have a lot of those books and read on them. Then I later went attended a meeting of the YCL. Where my father introduced me to Matome Chilwane.
Yes.
Who's now the MEC of education and sports and culture in Gauteng. Then I worked with him from there. I just started attending meetings until I went to COSAS and Youth League. And a lot of people around me played a role, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that played a role. But Dr. Klagaza, there's many generations I grew up with.
Yes.
Other people will say that I'm old. Because there's many people that I've grew up with who are now old people who are big in the ANC, but I was with them in the Youth League, most of them, because I arrived very early as 14 years. Some of them were still.
So you grew up within the movement?
Yes.
That's very interesting. Now, I want to talk about your recent economic march. I think for a lot of people, they're only starting to really feel like the ANC Youth League is alive again with yourself as president and obviously your top comrades. Now, I want to understand why that march was so important to have and how many people were there as a start. Because, in South Africa, people are always talking about million man marches and then it's not a million people. But give us the understanding of why that march was so important for the Youth League to really champion.
Would have loved to have 1 million people, but it's not easy to get 1 million people into a march. It might be. You can see we had 21,000 or more people on the march. It was still too big to manage. Yeah. That march, we had to close a lot of roads to get to HSE. Look, we've decided that we are going to change how we celebrate our 80th anniversary. One, there's a high level of youth unemployment in South Africa. 13 years ago, the youth also marched to the HSE to force private partnership with government to reinvest into the economy, to create employment for the youth of this country, because we have a view that they're not investing back into the economy, they're holding into their money, they're not sure what to do with the money, or they're investing in other countries apart from where they're operating. Now, we say that this march must happen to re-emphasize our 80th anniversary, but also to fight for the reindustrialization of the economy, because our economy, I don't know if you're aware, it was industrialized before, it became deindustrialized.
Yes.
And it's something that we want to deal with urgently, because that's where jobs are. You can't have a country that has got so many raw scarce minerals that are here. They've got a lot of raw minerals here. But you have unemployment. Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Now, who are these raw materials creating employment for? Now, we're saying that let's invest in the economy and create jobs for the youth. And that's why we said we're not going to celebrate our anniversary in a stadium like before with artists performing. Now we're taking the youth to the streets to fight for their economic freedom now, not later.
What power does the ANC Youth League have in the political sphere, the greater political sphere, not just within the ANC sphere, but within the greater political sphere as well as the civic sphere? What power does it actually have to affect change?
I think one must agree, we are the only organization, if not in the continent, in the world, that exists in every corner of a country. I'm saying, for example, you can go in the deepest rural areas of South Africa, even if you don't find 100 people, but you'll find at least 50 young people who are saying that they are youth league. There's no inner organization that is like that in South Africa. It's only the ANCYL Youth League. Now, that is influence, because it means that in every corner of this country, we have someone who speaks our language, who mobilizes society, who represents people in communities. In every gathering or every meeting of the community, you'll find one young person or 2 or 10 who are saying that they represent the interest of the ANCYL Youth League. There's nothing as powerful as that. Even big organizations that have got money, highly funded. You saw big political parties that are funded with a lot of millions. They don't have that infrastructure that we have. And that is the power we have. But also, we have the power to influence the body politics of the ruling party, which is the ANC. We can sit, every time we speak, if you have checked of Kembeck, the president of the ANC calls the Youth League. Go and check all the presentations or addresses by the president of the ANC. He always speaks about what the Youth League wants and what is lobbied them to do. It has never happened. Many presidents of the Youth League came and when they've never had presidents of the ANC speaking on their policies on day-to-day basis, even in government platforms. Now, that is influence that we have into the ANC. Now, another thing that we have is the vibrancy. You know, you might think it's easy to mobilize the youth of this country. We've shown you during elections, even if it was we arrived late when already were problems. If we had a year or 2 to campaign for elections, we believe that the ANC should have done better. Because we believe if the ANC Youth League was not there, it should have been worse. If you have been following us during elections, we've been filling stadiums, we've been in rallies, we've been everywhere, we've been on the streets. It's the Youth League through the Pitamkaba volunteers. I'm saying it's a very important organization, but politically, if you were to come into politics, it's an organization that trains the youth ideologically on what they believe, what must happen in the country. It's a school on its own, but also it's a voice of the voiceless. It says it's got a platform to speak on behalf of those who can't speak in public or can't say anything.
How do you reconcile then having this infrastructure, as you put it, that traverses all of South Africa, but yet the number of youth who actually turn up to vote and democratically become active is diminishing with every single passing election, whether it's local government or national? How do you reconcile that as an organization that exists? Your raison d'etre is literally to champion youth issues, and when the youth don't feel that their issues are being championed, they don't vote. The political till doesn't ring.
Look, in whatever you do, you can mobilize and do whatever. If you have not resolved the issue of youth unemployment, you have not resolved the issue of the economic structure of this country, the youth will not vote because the youth are always aligned to what benefits them materially. They are interested in things that speaks to them. You know, we can organize them and speak to them, but if you can't resolve their socio-economic problems, you can't do anything. They'll stay at home because they're demoralized. Anywhere in the world, it's not only in South Africa. Anywhere in the world where the economy is going down, where there's no job creation, where there's no growth, the youth don't go out and vote, and it's problematic. That's why we've changed the strategy. You're saying that the only way to get the youth out there is to make sure that they are full participant in their own economic activities. The youth are excluded from their own economy. It's a fact. The youth are not in the corridors of power it's supposed to be. Yes, we have tried now to put, for the first time in history, to put about over 17 young people who are below 35 in parliament. You know, it has never happened. When I was there in parliament, there were only 3 or 4 young people below the age of 35 years. Those are battles we have won under these difficult conditions of the GNU. When the ANC has dropped seats, when the ANC is below 50%, when the ANC was at 60-62%, there were no youth representation at that level like now. Now, those are part of the achievements we want to speak about, but more must be done.
Are old people not wanting to create a space for young people, or should young people be forcefully pushing to make themselves part of the discussion? Because you, as you say, you were one of the very few when you were there, but you've now moved to get more young people in. Why have we not legislated for people under the age of 35 to become staples within the parliamentary spheres, one? And then two, are young people are they not energized enough Do they feel like, what is this thing that stops them from being participants and active participants in the future of the country? Abantu abadala, are they not wanting to relinquish his hlalo? What's going on?
There is no one who's going to relinquish anything for you.
Must take it.
The sooner you get that into your mind, the better. You really have to take it. We have taken it everywhere. I've led the ANC when I was still very young. As early as 21 years, I was a secretary of the biggest ANC zone in my region. All people not give it to me, they contested me. But I was able to mobilize the old, the women, the young, and my peers to support those who are progressive in thinking. But not majority believe that the youth can take this country forward. They believe that the only ones who experience, which they built the experience when they were still young people. Now, it's a battle. Yeah. It's a battle that the youth must fight. But you see, it's very important. It's very difficult to mobilize the youth into that battle when they are too hungry.
Yeah.
Because they can't focus. When the youth is hungry, they can't go to our townships. Our townships have become a holiday. Every day, Monday to Monday, the youth are running around the streets doing nothing, Illegal foreigners have also taken over tech shop. There's just too many things that needs us to resolve within this short period of time. The youth needs us to see us actively involved. Yeah. Because youths by nature are activists of change. Yeah. Now, when there's an organization that acts on their behalf, they join it and they become active. When there's no one who speaks on their behalf, they get demoralized. They sit
where they don't see themselves.
They don't see themselves. They give up on life. They drink alcohol. Some of them in their families, no one has ever worked, maybe. Yeah. The uncle has been a gangster, is a role model, is in jail. He goes in, also wants to be the fastest way things can make money to be going to crime. Now, also another problem that we need to do, we need to start creating role models. Yeah. Because another thing we're doing, we're living townships every day. Yes, we know townships were designed for
encampment. There were
camps for black people to be fetched for cheap labor and all of that. But now they're formalized. I'm saying there are people who stay there now, and all of us, we leave a township and never go back. Now there's no one anymore who inspires the youth there in the townships. They're inspired by gangsters only. We are the only people who are remaining there in the townships. Those who can buy expensive bottles of alcohol in the townships through stolen money. Some of us who are working hard, we hardly go to the township. We don't even wash our cars in the townships anymore. Now, there's a problem also of role models in the townships.
Now, when you talk about townships specifically, I want to talk about the discipline factor. When you look at maybe in what you've placed as an issue that the youth is faced with, which is unemployment, etc., and poverty. When you look at the discipline of the youth league in the past, relative to it being youth and being present everywhere, in townships, in suburbs, etc., many would feel that there's been a decline in the organization's discipline from about 2008 down to a point where the organization itself, in 2013, for context, I was at NASREC. So I saw the conference, which became then consultative. I saw it fall apart in front of my own eyes. And that was a very seminal point for somebody who has tracked the socio-economic landscape of South Africa for a very long time. Discipline has been a huge issue. I want to understand, from a discipline perspective, when we talk discipline, what are some of the things that you as president have brought into the Youth League, and what are some of the things that you want to bring in and you're hoping will be concretized within the new wave of the ANC Youth League?
Let me first start by clarifying the issue of the 2014 conference in UJ. It was not collapsed on the basis of discipline. It was collapsed on the basis of all the people who interfered with the autonomy of the ANC Youth League to convene their own conference, who came in because they had different preferences. They've decided to convert an elective conference of the Youth League into a consultative conference, which was wrong, was illegal. They were not supposed to do that. Instead, it was a beginning of problems that we already have. They were adding on to the problems, because post that, the Youth League was never the same again. The problems. Only now we're trying to rebuild it again back to its former glory. Now, it goes back to the old people that they don't believe in a strong ANC Youth League because they don't want, some of them don't want to be challenged on views that the youth doesn't agree with them. Now, they were so traumatized by the
previous era
to a point by every time, even myself when I was contesting president of the youth league, there were traumas that no, here we're going to create another Julius. This one is the former president of COSAS. Let's bring in people that we can control. Let's do all of those things. But the youth rejected it until they elected their own president. Now, I'm saying it's a problem.
Yeah.
You'll always have it. But the discipline issue, yes, in other areas, people over abuse the platform. They use it for wrong reasons. They abuse the logo for their own personal gains. Others utilize the logo of the youth league to create community forums, to look for projects and all of those things. Those are wrong behaviors. But as a youth league leader, you'll always be in trouble with the ANC leadership because the youth by then you sometimes educate the youth and say a lot of things. For example, I said something now which got me into trouble. That I will remove the president and install myself.
Yourself, yes. I saw that.
You know, you get yourself in trouble all the time. Because the youth wants change. The youth want their life to change. Now, as the leader, you feel the spirit in you as a leader of the youth but here action must be made. If young people can walk for 17 kilometers to the JSE on a Friday, it must tell you about the commitment of the youth that they want their lives to be changed.
So what happens when something like that reaches the ear of the president and the people around him? Do they call you into a meeting? Is there like a team's meeting? Is there what happens? What happened immediately after that? Because I think what happens is that politics is very opaque to the normal person, especially when we look at the ANC and the ANC Youth League and how it's always been portrayed. So take us behind that. You, as a young person, as the president of the ANC Youth League, you go up against and you say, things are not happening. If things are not happening, what happens after that? You know,
in politics, there will always be people who are ready to say, we told you so. You know, there are always people who will always go to the president. We told you so about this president of the youth league. He's a problem, this president of the youth league. You lead a coup, this president of the youth league. He's not a president we need. He's not a soft president. There's many issues that will be raised. You see, now he's challenging new president. But if you have a progressive president who is a former student activist, understands that the youth must be, you can't have a president of the youth league that does not fight for the youth and educate them. If it means that he must march to the union building, let it be. Because we went out in numbers and said the youth must vote for the ANC, and under the ANC their lives will change. Now it means you must be security guards of that, because you can't go back after 5 years and say that again the same thing. The youth will ask you, when you were there, you came to us 5 years ago, you said this will happen, it has never happened. Now our credibility and
rests on things happening.
Now our relevance, the youth league becomes useless if things that we promise don't happen, because we commit the organization to these things. Now we can't be a youth league that is useless, that is undermined. Now if that happens, it means we need to take the fights to the streets. When we're done that, we need to take the fight internally, because it means we must go and mobilize the youth in all structures to go and take over the ANC and lead it ourselves. Now, people who understand the politics of that will see that, but those who are opportunities will always come and say, act on this man very fast.
He's going to be a problem.
Another problem in the ANC. There are always people who are queuing up to, it's politics, you know, to, remember not everyone accepted outcomes of our conference of being elected. There are those that felt they need a different youth league. There are those that said this is a youth league that we need a radical youth league again. There are those that said no, these radical things is old school. We need a youth league that is quiet in boardrooms. You know, there's different ways of people who imagine how the youth league must be. Now, mine, others do not agree with it. Others agree, but I know majority.
They want to move with you.
My leadership, because it's a style that takes the youth along.
But
I don't leave the youth behind when I advance the back. I'm not a boardroom person. I go to the boardroom. If the boardroom doesn't work, I go to the streets immediately. Or I go to the streets and go to the boardroom. Now that's how it works. But you must never leave the youth behind when you advance their struggles.
Now, I want to give you a little bit of context before I ask the question. I once sat with a minister, very long-standing minister, off the record, and we had a conversation in Cape Town around the same era around that Julius Malema was there. And one of the things that he said, which I think lends itself to what you are speaking about, is that she now you know it was a she said, we made a mistake with Julius because we were meant to send him to Cuba because he was too militant for where we were and for what we needed. Now, I didn't stop her. I wanted her to speak. Now, the conversation, you've now alluded to this, that many people make comparisons between you and Julius. Now, those people like that minister that I spoke to still exist within the ANC structures. They've not left. There are still people who feel that the youth must be under their thumb, must only say things that align to what and how they see the world. But particularly people give comparisons of you to Julius. Now, I want you to speak on that and maybe give context to what you see the situation being, and if there are similarities or there are no similarities and you guys are polar opposites.
I think what we must first acknowledge is that the debate on who is the best has been closed. From the march, from our programs, everything is closed. You can no longer compare me to I'm way ahead of him.
Within the ANC context, ANC league context
in society, because in the beginning we compared because of our style of leadership and how we speak and articulate issues. Or from the same school of thought. You can't separate us on the issue of articulation and posture.
Yeah.
He's a former president of COSAS, I'm a former president of COSAS. We both grew up. Both of us never hijacked this thing when we were old and we brought in. Come in there, there's an ANC. Yeah. If you join the youth league, you'll get a job or you'll get a tender. No. We were groomed from childhood into structures of the movement. And we're likely to have similarities. Even if I try my level best not to be like him, if he tries the level best, you can't separate the two. Yeah. I'm saying, check all the people that grew up organic structures. You can check Balula. There's a bit of similarities on the style of leadership. It's a training issue. You know, that's why they'll say others must go to Cuba to be trained, others to be trained ideologically. But on the issue of who led the best structure, look, Tina, in 1 year, we're able to bring back the youth league into the map. We're able to organize one of the. There's never been a match bigger than what we've organized of the youth league in the history of the youth league. We're able to fill in stadiums of anniversaries. We're able to have engagements with stakeholders. You know, for the first time in history, we had SAFA in Little House. We call it the SAFA leadership in Little House to account on football in South Africa. We call the rugby union to come and account on the rugby. It's us who've been doing all of those things. We're speaking and practicalizing them. We call controllers and all the kings. It has never happened. It is our youth league that brings all stakeholders, kings, chiefs. We're now going to call religious leaders. I'm saying the style now it's more practical. We're not a youth league that speaks and there's no action. When we say something, we do it tomorrow. We say something, we do it tomorrow. We follow up. We've got a team that sits and say, we have left this and this and this, let's do it tomorrow. Now, we're a youth league that people can still reinvest back in and support because we're a youth league that will bring change in this country.
How are you guys operating within the context of the GNU and other coalition bodies that are forming across the different spheres of government? How are you guys seeing the landscape, and how does that affect the work that you do, one, but also the work for young people that must ultimately be positive in its outcome?
Look, it's very difficult. I don't want to lie, because we're operating in an environment we've never operated in before. You know, there's no reference that in 1996, 97, where the ANC was at 40%, they had to work with other political parties that does not agree with ideologically. You know, we don't know what to do sometimes. Sometimes we're used to democratic centralism. You wake up in the morning, a leader of another political party speaks whatever they want to do. Others leave cabinet. You know, cabinet, you know, it's a president, it's cabinet, you know. They do their own things. We're used to centralization of everything. Now we have to manage this minister that you can't discipline in your party anymore because they are disciplined their own party, their own constitution. But what we've emphasized to the president is that now that they voted for him as a president, all these political parties, he must now become the president of the country. And everyone must be sworn in, must be brought in. Because no one must create a parallel government. It's illegal. It's illegal to, when the president says this, you create a parallel, like what the Minister of Basic Education did when we were signing a Pella Act. That minister does not represent a political party there. He's a minister of this country under President Ramaphosa.
In a crucial portfolio.
Now, the president might be, a president is a negotiator, he's a bit softer. If it was me, I always tell him, if it was me, I have a long fight that minister and many others that don't follow the line. You know, I don't believe in disorder. You know, but it's a difficult one because every time the ballpost changes every day. You know, we don't know what to do. Every day we're trying to learn new tricks on how to survive. And I don't think South Africans must put the country into situations again because it's very difficult to implement important decisions.
How's your relationship with SG, Fikile Mbalula.
We have a very good relationship. He's a former SG of the Youth League and president. It's only him and Nelson Mandela that have become president and SG of the Youth League. I respect former leaders of the Youth League. And those that know me, I'm a strong believer that people that have never been the Youth League must never lead the ANC, because they will not, where have they been prepared? Because a preparatory school of the ANC is the Youth League. Now we have a very good relationship with the SG. Sometimes we fight a lot sometimes because we differ on certain approaches on politics, but we agree on a lot of things also. I think we're privileged as the Youth League to be a Youth League elected under the leadership of an SG who's a former president of the Youth League. Now and again, when we mess up, he's able to understand how to clean up. Unlike other presidents that came before us, some of them never had the privilege to have a former president of the Youth League becoming the president of, becoming the SG of the ANC.
When we talk about creating opportunities and the economic environment that South Africa operates in, there's a very key conversation that I like to have with everybody who's here, who comes onto this platform. South Africa runs a budget deficit of 340 plus, I stand corrected, plus billion rands every single year, which means that we overspend every single year on our budget, and we spend more on paying interest than we do on our policing services, defense, etc., and some very crucial portfolios. I want to understand, relative to the economic environment to operate in and where we would like to go, reindustrializing the economy, etc., what are some of the steps, the key steps that the ANC Youth League is playing in this battle to change some of the economic quagmire that we find ourselves in South Africa?
Look, you're bound to have that problem that you are having when you have a majority of South Africans who are dependent on government. The tax base is so low. Majority depends on minority. It's not sustainable. The economic structure of our country is not sustainable. Does not reflect the demographics of the country. Now, our people are dependent on social grants, are dependent on... Now, the tax base is too thin, but is expected to do more. Now, you're about to be in debts in most cases. We've said it to the ANC, it's not sustainable. That's why we spoke about the restructuring of the economy to benefit the majority of South Africans. We spoke about export quotas as the Youth League to say that, but why do we export so many raw materials at the expense of South Africans? Why were you doing that for so many years? And no one can answer that. Even the elders can. What they can say is that we agree with you. But no one can answer why they've been doing it for so many years, because it was bound to collapse.
Why did we dismantle ISCO?
Why did we? It's bound to collapse. Why are we importing steel so cheap from China when we had Score Metal that was doing their creating jobs? It was bound to collapse. Now, some of the agreements that were signed, I hear some former president now, yes, tend to become a radical for economic change for people of South Africa, who have signed all of these deals everywhere that have compromised the economy of this country, that has collapsed the Score Metal. Jobs have been lost.
This was under Thabo Mbeki. I can say the name.
No. Also Jacob Zuma. Yeah. Jacob Zuma played that role in most of those issues. Now we say let's reindustrialize. Let's take the raw materials and put up factories again. Can Chimiston become the industrial hub of Africa again to create jobs?
Tabanchu, Timbaza, Fort Jackson.
They became informal settlements. You go to Marlborough, here in Alexander. The factories that used to operate there to manufacture candles, and now people are staying inside as informal settlements because of they are not utilized for
inactivity.
Anything. There's no inactivity. I'm saying solutions are there. We're a God-blessed country. We've got important minerals that can be utilized. Also, why do you send chrome and other minerals outside to China?
To be processed
when they can be processed here, so they can buy them as secondary products from South Africa to create jobs for the youth, and also the tax base, the tax input becomes higher now to resolve all of these problems and secure whatever debts we have taken in the past with our own money and our own resources. I'm saying that can be done. You know, one scary thing that has happened, and where to export is more expensive than to import. What is that? Who's going to set up a country where exporting is more expensive than importing? People have moved their factories. The factories that used to operate here are now set up in China and other corners of the country. They move the raw materials there. They send them there to send them in secondary industries. Then they bring them back here in South Africa as finished products when they could set them up here. Now, those are laws that are made by us, which I think, as the ruling party in those years, we failed in those areas, and we must take responsibility for it. But because we're still alive, it must be changed. We can't complain forever.
As a centralist or a centrist organization, ideologically, but also leaning towards socialist, how do you reconcile the need to be hyper-capitalist in order to get out of the current situation that we find ourselves in?
Look, we're clear that you need capitalism to achieve socialism, because revolution is resources. There's no way that when you can say those things in an economy like ours that is very small, you really have to make sure that you totally invest. Industrialization program is a capitalist program, because it's about production, productivity of what is happening in the areas. Now it means investors must come in, must invest money. When they invest, the obsession of investors is profit. Now you can't separate two, but we're saying that the most important thing, that those that belong to that country must be full participant in their own economic activities. They must not be excluded. It becomes a problem when they're excluded. It becomes a problem when the face of poverty in South Africa still remain black when industries are operating. Because even if you didn't reindustrialize this country, but if majority of South Africans are not full participants in economic activities, they're just laborers, they're not owners of production, then it's a problem. Because they need to be full participants, because these are their raw materials. Investors, when they come in, they must come in their mind, but they must know that they need to work with those that are from that country. Majority are blacks who have suffered from the injustice of the past. You can say whatever you say, apartheid is it's over 300 years program of colonization. You can't erase it in 5 years or 6 years. It's not practical. But the only way to erase it is to restore the dignity of our people. To restore the dignity of our people is to make sure that you restructure the economy to benefit majority of South Africans.
Now, let's have a conversation more around the economics again, particularly within the conversation of reinvestment into South Africa, whether it's through the social compact of trusts, big corporates and businesses reinvesting into South Africa, like what they're doing now. They're very bullish on the GNU. Or on the other side of external money, FDI, foreign direct investment coming into South Africa. The one thing that I have gotten to understand about the posture or how people feel about South Africa globally, when I'm in Europe or America or even China, the key conversation that people have is around corruption. Nobody wants to put their money into a place where you don't know if it will be there tomorrow or it will be used for the means that you had intended it for. And a similar case happens in Zimbabwe, where if I said to you, would you put 100 Rand into Zimbabwe right now, not knowing what you would wake up and the economy could be? So South Africa finds itself in that position. What's the perspective or the mandate that you see as the Youth League, looking at some of the bleed that happens in terms of corruption, etc., in the country, and what you are looking to attain, which is economic freedom for young people and for all South Africans? When it comes to corruption, what is your stance as the president, but also the organization? What do you guys stand for?
Look, our threats to our struggle for economic freedom now, not later. One is the energy security, because the industrialization program needs energy security as number one, which we've addressed to the ANC. And we can see why 200 days without load shedding, trying our level best to resolve that problem. But it's one of the problems that affected the economy and the shrinking of jobs in South Africa. Number two, it's crime. Crime, it's a big thing. But the crime goes back to the issue of high level of unemployment, the social economic problem we're faced with. Now, no one wants to invest in a country where they're not sure of the safety of their investments and assets and all of that, which is the Minister of Police have been pushing him everything that issue must be resolved. If you can see, police have been moving around everywhere, trying to, there's more hype around police resolving problems than before now, because those are one of the things that voters punished us for, that you are not resolving the issue of crime. Yes, you have built us RTP houses. Yes, you have given us subsidy water. You have given us subsidy electricity. You have taken our kids to school. You have done all of those things. But safety, it's a problem, because we're no longer safe in our own homes. Women and children are living in fear, gender-based violence. There's just disorder. Go back, criminals, illegal foreigners are selling drugs on the streets and all of those things. Resolve that matter. Corruption is one of the biggest enemies, because corruption takes directly from the poor. Corruption is the enemy of everything we want to achieve, because I can give you an example on implementation of social programs. Now, if you say you are given a project to build maybe 100 houses and you steal the money, only build 20, it means you have stolen from 80 families. Government money. Now, that's an enemy, because you are moving us backwards and moving us forward. That's why we've resolved as a youth league that we'll be ambassadors against corruption. If you have checked all our stands everywhere, we stand with those that fight against corruption. And I think the ANC is doing very well on the area of introduction of the Integrity Committee. We're the only party that does that. Step aside. We're the only party that no one does that. Other parties who can be charged of corruption, it still continues as their leaders. As the ANC, we've listened to the people say that they can't associate themselves with a political organization that is infiltrated by criminals. Now, even if you're not guilty, but I say go and prove your innocence and come back, because we can no longer be associated with corruption. And before there was resistance, people from political parties leaving the ANC. Now even members of the ANC society are starting to accept it, because it's a painful process to introduce something that has not happened. People could be charged of corruption many years ago. They'll still remain as leaders of society, move around, address communities, be deployed in government until they're proven guilty or not guilty. Now you can't do that. And we even go further now. I say even when you are accused of corruption, we even say that go and present yourself to the Integrity Committee that is led by veterans of the ANC, which are highly respected, and say, explain to them what has happened in this thing. How do they end up being accused of this issue? Then morally, you decide. If you feel like the accusations are too big, they'll damage the image and the brand of the organization. Morally, you say, no, let me go outside, like Mabuya Kulu in KZN. Yes, went outside before the step aside law and said that, let me go outside and clean my name, then come back into the organization.
Even Pule?
No, Pule is charged. He's charged. He's on step aside. He's not a voluntarily moving. When you are charged in the ANC, automatically go on step aside. Voluntarily is when before you are
when
charged.
You know.
When they are accused. When you are still accusing you. Because that no one forces you. There's no law that forces you to step aside. But you come and say, hey, this issue requires me to take a seat back from my responsibility as a president of the Youth League. Let me attend to this matter. Take a leave. And the deputy president act as the deputy president. Let me take a leave, go and clear my name and come back.
Now, there is a view that the middle class in South Africa is not prioritized enough. They form the core of the base, of the tax base. I want to understand, relative to us wanting a bigger tax base, but also creating stability in the base that we already have, how do we move forward with organizations that have civic responsibility, political responsibility like yourselves, in galvanizing and bringing back the lost, I'd say, enthusiasm from a middle class that is being pressed and oppressed economically, right? They can't see the enemy because it's less and less money in their pockets, but they know something is wrong. What role does your organization play in bringing back to the table young people who form the middle class, who feel for the longest time they're not represented in certain spheres of political activity? How do you bring those people back into the fold and give them a sense of belonging in South Africa, even before political parties and political homes?
Yeah, I agree with you. The middle class is under siege. And it's a class that is created by the ANC. It has never been there before. It's an under siege class because the cost of living affects them, petrol prices affect them, rental affect them. They're a salary away from poverty. If they don't get paid this month, guaranteed that the landlords will remove them tomorrow because they can't save anything. Because the little that they earn, they use it for survival. That's why I was speaking about the lowering of the cost of living because it's too high for anyone to survive. That's why we spoke about agri processing here in the country because we export the best and live less here, or export and import our own products. You know, it makes it very difficult. Normally, we're not supposed to have those problems here in South Africa because we have the good weather, we've got a good agricultural, but businesses tend to take out most of our products outside the country and leave our people here suffering. But it can be lowered. You know, the interest rates, you know, they're too high for mainly the black middle class to take bonds and loans, and because they really have to survive on those things. Now, those are areas that we feel that we must engage the financial sector to work on it. We need to engage the agriculture sector to work on it. We need to engage the mineral department to work on the issue of energy, the subsidy of housing. You know, it's very important that we fully subsidize some of their houses because it's very difficult to travel. You know, we need to build industries around where people stay, so that it's not if you go to many countries, people can just take a bicycle to work. Those are kind of corridors we must build. We need to build economic corridors that no one has to migrate from Limpopo to come and look for a job in Gauteng because there's no opportunities in Limpopo. When there's agriculture in Limpopo, when there's raw minerals in Limpopo, where they could set up industries there, they could set up agri-processing factories in those areas. Now, the solutions are there. The problem is that we need to implement them. We need the best people to implement them. And that's why we're saying, well, here's the youth to be sent in all corridors of power to solve. You can no longer speak anymore. People want action, you know, and that's what must happen.
Collen, you have unemployed graduates and you have people that operate in a very important sphere of government, which is municipal, who have no qualifications. There's obviously a disconnect. And now I'm posing this to you, but I'm also posing it to myself. Why is it that we still persist in a country that is educating people by the thousands, by the hundreds of thousands through programs like NSFAS, etc., yet we're not capacitating our most important, which I believe in terms of our districts as well as our municipal districts, because ultimately the issue of service delivery starts there. You've got people that are capable theoretically, right? But we're not, I don't know if there are mass internship programs to bring young people into municipal governance. I don't know. Or if there are, they're quiet and they're happening in corners. You have unemployed graduates and you have a space that many, and it's not even us, it's the stats, it's auditor generals that say the people that are working here do not know what they are doing.
You know, the funny part is that a lot of these people who are collapsing municipalities, most of them are highly educated. The issue is practical experience and decisiveness and having your heart in the right place also. And I fully agree with you. We inherited municipalities with people who are permanent, in most cases, who were not educated anyway at all. But over time, we've put in a lot of people who are educated, but who also still don't know what to do when they get to the municipality. A municipality is a very difficult field to drive. But also, another thing I agree with you, we take too long to put the youth in the system. Because if you put them at the early stages, like ourselves, when we put into the system when we're young, you can't buy experience. There is no university that can give you experience or anything. You need to practically be involved to understand project management. A lot of problems that we have is that we have management problems in South Africa. We don't have quality of deployment of educated people. We have management problems. If you can go to many project managers are engineers, they're highly educated people, but they can't complete projects. They can't do anything because they don't have management skills. Now, I think we need to invest more on but also on accountability. You know what collapsed municipalities is corruption and accountability. People, there's no councillors who are deployed there don't play full oversight to hold administrators accountable. Because most cases you'll find that they have found themselves in corrupt relationships with city managers, municipal managers. Now, when the system corrupts oversight, there's no work that will be done because the system, which is administration in most cases, will be referees and players at the same time. Those who must play oversight are sitting back because they are scared to hold them accountable because they have found themselves in corrupt behaviors with them. Now, it goes back to the biggest problem. What collapsed municipalities is corruption and mismanagement of funds of the state and lack of oversight. And that is a problem that we're faced with as a country.
Now, in the past, your office has always had a credibility issue when it comes to money, specifically how much the president of the ANC Youth League gets paid. This was always an issue in the Julius era because there were always a lot of conversations going around. Now, I'm going to ask you this very simply and fairly.
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable saying how much you earn as the president of the ANC Youth League so that people can know?
Yeah. Look, they have not structured me a salary on how much I earn. What I do sometimes, I do what we call invoicing on the traveling and the movements, and I invoice the office of the CGO. Sometimes if they got money, they give me the money of the invoicing on my traveling, the hotel. Sometimes they don't.
So there's no actual salary?
I don't have a salary from Little House. I don't have it. Even Julius never really had a salary. I think how he responded to the question was a problem. People who usually have a salary in the Youth League is the SG and the TG of the ANC Youth League. In most cases, we are encouraged that we must go to parliament, we must be
active within government structures.
Government structures. The president of the Women's League is a minister. I was also encouraged. Even today, still asking me, why do you not go back to parliament and maybe you'd have been deployed as one of the youngest ministers. But I felt that how the Youth League is structured now, you might find it difficult to
ascend,
to organize it if you're always in parliament, especially now that we have less seats. Our officials, most of them are in parliament. My deputy president is a deputy minister. The first DSG is a chairperson of science and technology. The second DSG in trade and industry. Now they're always busy. To find them into meetings, it becomes very difficult. Can you imagine if the president who's can't come to a podcast during the week because he must be in Cape Town, and it might be a bit difficult. It's very difficult to survive in those issues. That's why the first thing I did when I got the little pension I got from Parliament, I settled some of my small debts so that I don't become vulnerable to people. Where you can't
approaching
you and all of those things. It's a bit difficult one, but look, I've been to farming. I'm trying to also revive that sector. Try to survive. It is not easy. I'm engaging with the ANC now that if they can structure me a salary so that there's a bit of survival. If they don't do that, I might have to take up some small responsibilities in boards and all of that. But all I must do is not to compromise
yourself and the organization.
And the organization. But the best thing you do, a lot of people, they tend to be associated with corruption because they don't disclose their interests, And no one says the president of the Youth League can't do business, But the problem is that when you do it underground, you don't openly do it. You must go out there and say that I'm in agriculture, I'm doing agri-processing. So when people, they see you trading these things, they don't say, because it doesn't mean if you're a president of the Youth League, you are outside, because you're not in government. You're like any other young person. You have a right to be employed.
It's a civic organization.
You have a right to be employed. You have a right to do business. You have a right to be deployed in government. You have a right to every right that every young person has. But we tend to hide it because we think that is a secret thing that no matter what, hide it. And you need to be out there. And if you want to trade, you must trade with people. If you want to trade with government, you must disclose that you're trading with government so that it's known. Don't do anything underground. And if that time comes, I will also say, I'm trading here. I'm doing all of these issues. As I'm saying now, I'm busy with setting up my things in agriculture. I've been doing very well in that space. I want to grow in it. I'm lobbying people that can I start exporting? Can I start? Those are areas that I want to play in. Instead, I enjoy that space more because it gives me a bit of freedom. I don't have to worry about it dependent on a salary. Also, it's very expensive to lead the Youth League.
Yeah,
it's a very expensive responsibility because you travel a lot, but you also intervene a lot. If somebody has passed on, the families. People don't expect the president of the Youth League to say that
you can't make it.
Pay, or if a house, informal settlement has been done, those have access to you. But please assist us. It also further exposes you because it means I must call as a business person and they can donate bricks in this house, can donate. Now, it has a lot to do with that, but do it publicly. Don't hide it so that people know that the Youth League is fundraising. We're a fundraising organization. Yes, we survive through fundraising. We survive through business people coming to donate resources. Saying that we believe in your revolution, we believe in your struggle. There is my 10,000 rand. Because all of these programs, we can't do them without fundraising.
Without people.
We have gala dinners, we invite business, we invite everyone to come in. Now, it is not a secret. It must be made in the open. All political parties are fundraising and associated with business.
Now, I want to talk about the future as we wrap up. The next elective conference is coming. Everybody knows that this will likely and is the last that Ramaphosa will be in government. So there is almost a changing of the guard that is going to start happening very, very soon, and we'll start to see it. Politically, it happens. There are conversations around a Panyaza, Mbalula, or DP, Mashatile, taking over, or at least going for the position. You as the Youth League, I know that you don't want to take an official stance, but when we look at these three people that are being placed in front of us, many would say it's a little bit of more of the same. Well, for two out of the three. There's conversations around somebody like Panyaza Lesufi, who has galvanized a lot of people and gotten a lot of, even outside ANC support, general support from people. What do you see the future looking like for the ANC, and what does it need to look like in order for some of the mandates that you have received and the future that you envision, that we spoke about here for South Africa? What needs to happen? What does the next person who takes over the mother or the father body, that is the ANC, what does it need to look like, and what must that person really push for?
You know, the Sahel debate of the ANC is not yet open. It might be illegal to speak more on that part. I thought you'll ask me why am I not availing myself?
I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that.
Because I also qualify. If the Sahel debate opens and say that the youth, the president of the Youth League, they must be president of the ANC, why would I not avail myself? But look, on the issue of the quality of leadership, if the time comes, we'll engage on it. But there's a program by the media to want to make these leaders of the ANC fight amongst themselves, that the other one is loved more than the other. I can say if Comrade Panyaza was loved, Gauteng's got the biggest population, will be sitting at 50-something%. Here in Gauteng was sitting at 34%. Now, it's a lie. They see ANC as ANC, everyone. They did not vote for us in Gauteng. And I can tell you, if we're at 51-52%, Gauteng would have saved national because of the population consideration here. Now, KZN were also 17%, and I'm saying those are big population countries. Now, the issues of who's loved more than who, it is not true. It's the media who's trying to push leaders of the ANC to fight amongst themselves and not focus on the bigger task of taking the ANC out of the mud that is in now. Now, when a such debate comes, instead we're engaging them, we're engaging the ANC leadership that maybe we might have to go to a conference of the ANC that is uncontested, that is leadership is elected on consensus, because we don't have the luxury anymore of contestation and breakaways. Any other breakaway from the ANC now is the end of the ANC. Now, as the Youth League, we're doing it now. We're engaging our structures are going to conferences now. We're engaging them. Can you manage succession? Can you agree who leads? Let's spend most of the time discussing policies
and strategy.
Because we spend most of the time singing in conferences about names of people. We forget the bigger things. We fail to divide the organization. Now, the obsession now is to unite the organization and make sure that the next conference of the ANC, there's no contestation.
By that next conference, are you availing yourself, or are you continuing on your second term?
Look, if the Youth League says that I must continue the second term because I still qualify for second term as the president of the Youth League, I will avail myself. If they say the session that of uniting the ANC is no, we think the unity is you to be president of the ANC. There's no president of the Youth League that will not want to be president of the ANC. It's a natural thing because all the training are trainings towards that process. Now, it's a natural thing that you'll have interest if you are engaged by the ANC in our own structures, that we feel that maybe this country needs a young leadership. Maybe you are the ones that must take over. I will not refuse to say that I can't take over after the ANC have invested so much in me.
President of the ANC Youth League, Collen Malatji, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing so freely. Yeah. I think a lot of the questions were on par, and you answered really well. And I think generally there is a different vibe about the ANC Youth League and the organization that you lead. And I think we need more people having conversations like this in broader spaces so that people can feel that they are represented. All people, all South Africans can feel that they're represented. Guys, please like, comment, share, and give us your views on the conversation that we've just had. Tell us how you feel about it. Tell us how you feel about this new ANC Youth League led by Collen Malatji. Let us know Do you think things have changed? Do you feel like something is in the air, something is different? Do you as a young person feel represented? Let us know in the comments and let's have this discussion. But thank you. See you in the next video. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Prince.